Chapter 7, Leadership. LOs. The nature of leadership and fellowship. The difference between traits and behaviors. Different leadership styles. Early approaches to leadership. Contingency approaches to leadership. Substitutes for leadership. Coaching as a leadership role. Leadership. We often hear this word leadership. So, influencing and supporting others to work enthusiastically towards achieving goals. Transforms potentially into reality. Helps. Identify goals of individuals and groups, motivate and assist people to achieve goals. Elements include or support voluntary effort or goal achievement. This is a leadership. This is how businesses and organizations or endeavors become successful because they have the proper person or people in place to lead and guide and motivate individuals to achieve goals and results. You see this in every successful organization. The nature of leadership. Nature of leadership, tested by the degree to which it identifies, develops, channels, and enriches an organization's potential. Approaches. So when you look at how it identifies and develops channels and enriches organizational potential, then now you see the approaches in which they will use. Descriptive, ways in which the actions of leaders differ. So this is when you have different leaders. All leaders are not created equal nor the same. They're different people. So the descriptive is going to be how do they lead? What type of actions do they take? Contingency, and that analyzes and selects a style that best fits the situation. So when you look at it as analyze the situation, give you an example. If I'm a leader and I have a group of people and I inherit and I get, let's say I'm a new leader and I get two groups of people that I got to work with. One is very experienced and mature. The other one is very inexperienced and have a lot of younger people in it. I'm gonna select a style that works for each one of those groups, and I won't be using the same style for both of them because they're so different in so many ways, not just in experience, but also in their age. Managers versus leaders. This is something that comes up a lot. There is a difference between being a manager and a different being a leader, and sometimes you have to be both, but you got to know when to be it, and that's where we're looking at here. So managers hold formal positions, achieve results by directing the activities of others. Uh, Weak leaders can still be effective managers. Excellent managers are expected to have leadership skills too. Leaders, anyone with informal influence, create a vision and inspire others to achieve it. Strong leaders can be weak managers. Leadership ability can be acquired and improved. So you can be one without being the other. And you can be someone, and I will tell you this, a lot of times when it comes to managing, it's usually you're more involved and more hands-on. When it comes to leading, you're not. And one of the things you find people some leaders are not managers. And I'll give you an example. It can be persons of influence, somebody who inspires and motivates others to do stuff. Like say for instance, a very experienced person within a group. Everybody goes to her because she is the most experienced and she's a leader, but she's not the manager. Leadership traits. You got physical, intellectual, or personality characteristics. Possessing leadership traits does not guarantee successful leadership. So when you look at the leadership traits, and I will tell you, the leadership traits that people look for, or you can be different depending upon what type of industry you work in. But those traits, someone once told me somebody I can't define a successful leader in my business, but I know one when I see one. Possessing leadership traits does not guarantee success. No. Bottom line is there's plenty of people who have success, who have leadership traits, but they failed in some capacities for various reasons. Negative traits. Narcissism. Leaders who are filled with their own importance, exaggerate their achievements, and want special favors and exploit others for personal gain. Usually, narcissistic people or people who have narcissistic tendencies, they show themselves very quick. One of the things is they want to step up to the front. They want to be seen even when they shouldn't be. And also too, if you can't spot them right up front, you can tell when you start working with them, because with them, it's the goal and the mission is always going to be about them individually, not about a group. Leadership traits. Alpha dogs, leaders who are intensely aggressive, egocentric, domineering, and controlling. Use personal characteristics like skills or positions to intimidate others, maintain personal control. So when you have alpha dogs, it's literally you look like somebody's leading the pack. Well, a lot of times you find somebody who's this, and out in every organization you will find these types of personalities. I refer to them as personalities, and when you find them, they usually show themselves pretty quick. They don't play fair in the sandbox. They don't like taking orders, but they like giving orders. They like intimidating. They like bullying, and they think demeaning somebody to get something done, controlling somebody is a good thing. They don't understand that actually it's not. So you see positive leadership traits. So pause right here and take a look and read through each one of those to see what positive leadership traits look like. You've heard these before. Leadership behavior. Successful leadership depends more on behavior, skills, and actions than on traits. I'm going to say this again. Successful leadership depends more on behavior, skills, and actions than traits. Traits provide basic potential. Behaviors release and express traits. So when you find somebody who may have the traits, they may possess, they could naturally have those. But when you look at somebody who's being successful, you look at the skills and the actions that they take. Ultimately, that determines why. This is how people sometimes say, this person surprised me. I didn't think that he or she could do that job and do it to that level. Why? Because they were looking at the traits that they thought they possessed, and they thought that they didn't have the traits necessarily to be successful. Types of leadership skills. So you have technical, person's knowledge of and ability in any type of process of technique. Human, ability to work effectively with people and to build teamwork. Conceptual, ability to think in terms of models, frameworks, and broad relations. So when you look at these different types of leadership, there are times, I can tell you just by having been a leader in the United States Army for so long, I can tell you there were times when I needed to be each one of those, depending upon what situation was. Variations in the use of leadership skills at different organizational levels. So you have supervisor, mid-level, and top level. And you can see, you got the conceptual, you see how that works with the top level. Human is middle, supervisor is more technical. So if you think in terms of supervisor, they're dealing with more of the duties and tasks. Middle management is dealing more with the people aspect of it. Senior management, top level, is dealing more with the concept. Where are we trying to go? Because they got to use vision and strategy. Situational flexibility. And I've often used the term situational leadership. Elements that affect each other in determining appropriate leadership behavior. Leaders, followers, and situation. Leaders should recognize different situations and adapt to them on a conscious basis. So when you have situational leadership, when you have situational flexibility, that means there's times when you may need to lead, there's times you may need to follow, depending upon what the situation is. And when I've seen really good leaders, they can switch, they can be flexible. Remember, everybody answers to somebody. Positive followership. So when you think in terms of being loyal, this is people who are think in terms of employees that works for a manager. Being loyal and supportive, becoming actively engaged, raising, penetrating questions, confronting the leader's ideas, ethical values, and the actions, anticipating problems and actively preventing them. So this is what you want ideally from people who are your employees as a manager, to do these things. And here's one right here that some people could misconstrue. Confronting the leader's ideas, ethical values, and actions. One of the things you do is, to help leaders be better, keep them on their toes, but ask good questions. Don't take things at face value. It's not that you're questioning, their leadership or their skills or their knowledge and stuff, but you know what? You're trying to get the best. So let's become kind of competitive with our ideas and anticipating problems and solving them. The best problem is no problem. If you know there's a problem that you can prevent, that's being proactive, and that's what you do. So we see negative followership. So when you see negative followership, this is where your employees are not necessarily doing the things that you want them to do. One of the things you find is you may have competition amongst them. There's a thing that competition can be fair, but it also can be bad too, because they don't. When people stop thinking like a team, and they don't have healthy competition, they have negative competition. Now they think like individuals. How can I be better than the other 10 people? And if I can do that, one of the things I'm not going to do is help the other 10 because I'm trying to be better than it. Uncritical is when people don't have the ability to think in terms of critical. When something is critical, a critical need. Let's say your organization, you have something happens out of the norm and there's a critical need and somebody needs to get on top of that. Well, the negative followership will not do that. They're not going to do it. They're not going to put their name on anything. They're not going to take blame for anything. And they're not going to co-sign on anything because they don't think in terms of that. They think that's somebody else's job. Rebellion. That means, they rebel and therefore you may be getting challenged with management and leaders and stuff because they just have the rebellion gene. And therefore anything that you put out there, they're going to push back on. And I don't mean in a healthy, good way. I've once heard somebody be in rebellion. One of the things that I've had to know some people would do with rebellion is they would try to embarrass a manager. A manager says something, well, I'm going to rebel, so I'm going to try to say something to either show the manager that he's wrong in front of everybody or that he don't know what he's talking about. That's a form of rebellion. Passivity. This is when people are passive and they don't take any initiative. They don't do anything extra. Anything they do, you got to tell them to do it. You got to ask them to do it, but they take no initiative. And they're really only going to do just enough to get by. The leadership style, the total pattern of explicit and implicit leaders' actions as seen by employees. So how employees see the leadership style. So look at positive leadership. It emphasizes reward and supportive approach, uses a conversational approach and communication. This is when employees will observe styles and see what type of leader you are. Are you a stern leader? Are you a disciplinarian? Are you passive? Are you a pushover? Are you incompetent? They'll look at these, and everybody does it. When you have the positive, they seek to reinforce things by giving rewards for good work and being supportive to people, letting them know that they care about them. And they have a conversational approach. You can talk with them. You can express to them how you feel about something or what you think about something, and not worry about them jumping down your throat or them telling you you're getting out of your lane. Now, negative leadership is polar opposite of that. It emphasizes threats, fear, harshness, intimidation, and penalties. This is the people who use this style. They have a tendency to think, well, instead of telling you, hey, if you guys do a good job right here, I'm going to give you this. This is what a negative leader would say. If you don't get that done by this date, I promise you, everybody's going to pay a price. You see the difference? Workplace bullies. They intimidate, ridicule, insult, blame, harass, and make unreasonable demands. They can do all this because their thing is they think that's what they're supposed to do. This is how I get people to execute, is by bullying them, intimidating them, and making them. But what they don't understand is that actually does not work. And one of the things, if it goes on long enough, you normally will see HR complaints, and then you'll start seeing attrition, people leaving the job. The style is related to one's model of organizational behavior. So, and some people learn it, and some people, I think it's natural for them. Styles and the use of power. So, autocratic leadership. So, centralized power and decision-making in themselves employ negative leadership. So, this is people when they say, my way or the highway. I don't want your opinions. If I want your opinions, I'll ask for them. Don't give me your opinions about what we should be doing. I will tell you what we would do. That's an autocrat. Consultative leaders. They will ask people for input. Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, do you have a good idea? Let's use it. And they'll take your information and act on it, and they'll also give you credit for giving it to them. Participative leaders. This decentralized authority, and they use employees' input and participation. Leader and group act as a social unit. So this is where you actually have people who actually get to participate consistent with supportive, collegial, and systems model organization. Whereas, the leader allows people to get involved in processes, in decision making, and give input about how we're going to go about doing stuff. And it's very social. This is a group of, this is a group of people that might get together after work with their leaders and do a picnic once a year. Consideration. So concern about the human needs of employees, known as employee orientation. Considerate leaders try to build teamwork, provide psychological support, and help employees with personal problems. So when you look at this is they're concerned about people. Your most important aspect of any business is your people. And with the consideration, you take that into consideration, and you reflect. And one of the things, they look at the whole person in this. They don't just look at the employee. They also look at the guy who's employee, who's also a husband, who's a father, all these other things. And they'll work with you, whether it's personal, professional problems, or whatever else, because one of the things that they use as a basis of how they operate is understanding. Structure. Task orientation, characterized by the belief that results can be obtained by keeping people constantly busy and closely monitoring employees' actions, ignoring employees' personal issues and emotions, urging employees to produce at a higher level. So when you see the structure right here, this structure, task orientation, structure, how it is. So in other words, I'm going to keep you busy. And if I see that you get some downtime, I'm going to find something else for you to do. And this is where you find things when people use the word busy work. I need you to keep going. Don't bring your personal problems to work. We're not paying you for your personal problems. We're paying you to do work here. And don't let your personal problems interfere with the job. And I don't care that, your dog died and it's a family pet and your emotions are running high. I still pay you to do a job. I expect you to do it. That's what we're talking about here. Successful managers combine relatively high consideration and structure with more emphasis on consideration. And see, this is a describing successful managers would do just opposite of that. The glass ceiling. This is where, usually when you hear of glass ceiling, a lot of times it's referred to when people are referring to women and people of color. When you get into an organization and you are trying to advance, but you can only go so far. And the verbiage of the glass ceiling is, I've advanced up and I hit a glass ceiling and I can't move beyond that. And it's because of my race or gender or something along those lines. Women exhibit more consideration-oriented qualities. Men exhibit more structure-oriented characteristics. But it can affect both men and women. Contingency approaches. Most appropriate style of leadership depends on an analysis of the nature of the situation facing the leader. Types. Fiedler's contingency model, Hersey and Blanchard's situational leadership model, Path Go model, Vroom's decision-making model. So we take a look at Fiedler's contingency model. Appropriate leadership styles depends on the stage of favorability to the leader. Situational variables. Leader-member relations, determined by the manner in which the leader is accepted by the group. So how the group accepts the leader. How do they feel about the leader? That's determined right there. Task structure, the degree to which one specific way is required to do a job. And when we have something that's very scientific and technical in a way, and we have to have it done a certain way, that's a task structure, which does not allow much deviation. Leader position power, organizational power that goes with the position the leader occupies. So by virtue of someone holding a position of a legitimate authority, then it does hold power, meaning you're not just somebody in a group, a senior person in a group that people come to, you are the manager of that group. Well, that has legitimate power that's bestowed on that person by the organization. So you can look at this. We're going to skip this one because every time we talk about this, this confuses people more than it actually helps. So we'll explain these through the other slides. So the contingency model, guidelines for managers. So use analytical skills to examine the situation. Use research-based knowledge to see the relationship between the situation and style effectiveness. Be flexible in the use of various skills within an overall style. Modify elements of situations to obtain a better match to preferred style. Examine a subordinate's preferred style before placing him or her in a supervisory role. So this is understanding. Look at the situation, determine what you need, and come up with a game plan for it. But be flexible to address and change it as you go through. And another thing, when you think about promoting people and putting them in positions, you got to look at, are you promoting the right type of person for the group needs? For instance, if you have a young, inexperienced group of people and you have a young, inexperienced first-time manager, you may not want to put her with that group. Put her with another group that actually has more senior people and more experienced people in it, and allow her to work with them. And let a more experienced manager work with an inexperienced group of younger, inexperienced folks. Set people up for success. Or if you have someone, this has actually happened with one of my situations with one of my clients before. Someone who is not a type A personality, but very kind of passive. And the manager had to think, do I want to promote her to a group of people who are type A personalities? These were all females, by the way. The manager was a female, my client, and the person she was thinking about promoting was a female. And the group, she had two groups. The one group that she was looking at putting them in with, she said, it will not work. She says, this manager is new and inexperienced and kind of passive. The group of people she'd be working, these women, they're all type A personalities. She said, basically, if I put her in that, she's going to fail. So she didn't. Hersey's and Blanchard's situational leadership model. Most important factor affecting the selection of a leadership style is development level of a subordinate. Development level. Task-specific combination of employees, task, competence, and commitment. So again, most important factor affecting the selection of a leadership style is the development level of support. So the most important thing is, how do you develop your people? Addresses the individual employee's capabilities on specific tasks. Ignores several critical elements that determine leadership style. So when you think about this, let me look at this individual and see what their capabilities are. One thing, am I going to cater to this person's strength or their weakness? If I have an opportunity to put somebody else in the area where I think that they can actually thrive and do well, or can learn it and do well, then that's what I do. If I don't, then I won't. So here's the model, looking at situational leadership model recommendations. So if we look down here, we see telling. So high directiveness and low supportiveness. So I'm just telling people what to do and allow them to just go and do it. So this was a lot of times what you may find with people who are very experienced. Selling, high directiveness and high supportiveness. Selling is when you may have a group of people who you're directing, but they also maybe, let's say that they need a lot of support because they're working on new equipment or new technology. Participating, lower directiveness and high supportiveness. So when it comes to this, you don't do a lot of directives because they're participating. The information is going back and forth versus just coming from you. And high supportiveness because you're supporting people who are actually taking initiative to do things. Delegating, low directiveness and low supportiveness. This is usually done with people who are very experienced and they really know what they're doing. So the manager does not need, realistically, when you have someone like that and you're delegating to, that means you trust them, you know that they can do it, and you know that they don't need your help to get it done. Path goal model of leadership. Leaders use structure, support, and rewards to help employees reach organizational goals. Create a goal orientation. Improve the path towards goals. So this is where we are going to have goals that's going to be established. First of all, that should be fair and obtainable. And then we're going to come up with a way, as a leader, come up with a way to help people obtain those goals. Leaders provide a balance of task and psychological support for employees. Task support. Assemble the resources, budgets, power, and the other essential elements to get the job done. So when you look at the task support, how does this thing become, how do I set them up for success? Then I'm going to work on the budgets. I'm going to come up, delegate power. I have the power. I'll give you an example. I may delegate somebody some power, to do something in particular with a particular task. Psychological support. Stimulate people to want to do the job and to attend to their emotional needs. This is so big because, let's just say, a happy employee is a productive employee. And if you can help people be happy with what they do, then you should do it and support them, whatever it may need. And remember, people aren't robots, they're people. So they have feelings, emotions, and they have personal lives and professional lives. Give them the support they need so they can give you the results you're trying to achieve. So path, goal, leadership process. So let's take a look at, we'll go through the chart. So leader identifies employees' needs. Appropriate goals are established. Leader connects rewards and goals. So here, what you find is once I know what the goals, identify the needs, set the goals up. Now, what are these? Once these goals are met, what type of rewards are in it for my people? Leader provides assistance on employee path towards goals. Help people as they need, whatever it is they may need. Help them so that they can obtain the goals. Basically, set them up for success. Employees become satisfied and motivated, and they accept the leader. Now they believe in the leader. They believe in the leader, and you have, when I see this, and they believe that now what you have is what I refer to as mutual trust, from the leader to them, the employee to the leader. Effective performance occurs now. Now people want to do the job. One of the reasons they'll do a good job when they respect the leader is they don't want to disappoint. Both employee and organization are better able to reach their goals. So this is what we refer to as a win-win situation. Path goal model of leadership. So we look at styles, directive, focus on clear task assignments, standards of successful performance, and work schedules. So this is with this style, I'm telling everybody what to do, how to do it, and when to do it, because I'm directing. Supportive, demonstrates concern for employee well-being and needs. Okay, now I'm supporting people in any capacity that I need to, and I mean whether that's professional or personal. Achievement oriented, sets high expectations for employees, communicates confidence in the ability to achieve them. With this, you tell folks, you set the orientation up, you set the goals, and you tell them that they're high, but you also, this is where you have to be a little bit of a cheerleader and a motivator. Convey a message of positivity and let everybody know a team is only as strong as the weakest link. If you have each one, let's say it's 10 people on the team, you go to every last one of them and let them know, you believe in them. Then you could collectively bring them together as a group. There's an old saying, if they believe it, they can achieve it. And that's what you're trying to do here. Participative, invites employees to provide input decision. So when you're looking at the participative, this is when they're giving input. One of the things that happens when people give input, you also can get buy-in. Oh, think about this for a minute. Who's going to give you input on how to do something and then turn around and tell you, I don't think that's a good idea? No, because they help contribute to it. Contingency factors, general work environment, assessing employees' variables. So contingency factors, when you take a look at the work environment, what it is you're doing, and how's it, for instance, do you have people doing something in a place where it requires them to exert a lot of physical energy? And is it cool enough for them? Or are they actually getting to the point where they're almost sweating too much during the day and stuff? Just something similar as that can come into play. Now, give you the contingency. Let's say that you can't change that work environment stuff, but what you can do is say, okay, now for every hour, I want us to take a 10-minute water break and restroom break. Because I don't want people overheating and having heat strokes. Assessing employee variables, how things change with employees. Employees come and go. Life happens to them. Employees get sick, they get hurt. All these things, you got to take a look at that because it can affect your mission and your goal. Locus of control. Alternative beliefs about whether an employee's achievements are product of his or her own effort, result of outside forces. So when you look at this, when you look at employees' achievements, is it something that he or she is doing, or is that person being the recipient getting those results because they're a recipient of something else? Something else is contributing to it, which makes them look better than they really are. And you have to find, and that's happened before, and I've seen this before. And when I think about it, first thing that pops in my mind is when people thought one person was really good, what they found out that person was only good when they worked with a certain person. When they weren't working with that person, they weren't good, which tells you what? It was someone else that was actually driving that individual. Willingness to accept the influence of others, self-perceived task ability. So are you willing to accept the influence of others, whether that be somebody who works for you, you work for as a peer or whatever else? That's one of the things you do is like accept the influence of others, because particularly when you know people are trying to come at you in a positive manner to help. You got to be receptive to that. Self-perceived task ability. When you have people who have the ability to do a task uh, or not, you got to figure out, determine, my perception, is your perception reality? That this person really can't do this task or doesn't do it that well for obvious reasons or for various reasons. Vroom's decision-making model. Selecting from various degrees of leadership, styles by evaluating problem-solving situations, problem attributes, assessing a current decision situation along a 5-point scale, decision quality and employee acceptance dimensions, employee leadership options, autocrat 1 or 2, consultative 1 or 2, group 1 or 2. So managers can accurately classify problems according to the criteria offered. So when we look at this, Vroom's decision-making model is basically saying that, we're going to use a scale to try to determine the employee-manager relationship. So managers can accurately classify problems according to the criteria offered. Managers are willing and able to adapt their leadership style to fit the situation, which is, again, situational leadership. Managers are willing to use complex model. And this is a very complex model. Employees will accept the legitimacy of different styles being used for different problems. This is employees, basically, you got your employees to understand that, I lead based upon the situation, and they understand that. Because situations change, so do leadership styles. Employees will accept the leader's classification of the situation. So if I tell them that, hey, as a manager, I tell them that this is a dire situation and we're gonna have to all hands on deck and we got to do it this way, they'll trust me and they go along with that because they trust they trust me. So guidelines for question Vroom's decision making. So pause and read through each one of those. Okay, similarities across leadership models. So we have the model, University of Michigan, Ohio State studies. Soft emphasis, consideration, hard emphasis, structure. Fiedler's contingency model, employee orientation, task orientation. Hersey's and Blanchard's situation model, relationships, task, guidance. Path goal model, psychological support, task support. Vroom's decision making, employee acceptance, decision quality. Neutralizers, substitutes, enhances for leadership. Unhealthy dependency on leaders hinders the growth and autonomy of subordinates. When you have people who depend on the leaders, and I've seen this before where, here's a real world example, where we don't make decisions in a group. We all go to the leader for her to make the decisions. That is very unhealthy. Because if that leader goes out of pocket, guess what? There's no good decisions getting made. And people have gotten conditioned to do that. And I'm going to tell you what actually happened in this situation too. When that happened, the people stopped. They were doing their jobs, but they weren't making any critical or big decisions. And they held the questions until the leader came back. That's how it can be unhealthy. Neutralizers, attributes of subordinates, tasks, and organizations that interfere with or diminish the leader's attempt to influence the employees. You can get all types of neutralizers, and they can be internal and external, and they can be people related, non-people related. But at the end of the day, what it does do is it interferes with the ability of the leader to actually lead their people the way they want to lead them. Substitutes for leadership, factors that make leadership roles unnecessary by replacing them with other sources. So you find things that come into play. For instance, if there's something that you have the leader is doing, and you figured out a way that, hey, you know what, the fact to make the leadership roles, with this new technology, we don't need the leader to do this anymore. It can actually be done through this software, and it takes that away from the leader. And the leader, and it's automatically being generated now. Enhances for leadership, elements that amplify a leader's impact on employees. So if you look at some things that might enhance the leadership, amplify the leader's impact on employees, it might be, hey, here's one example where that actually happened, where this one leader had people that were working doing the same job, but they were in two different locations with its two buildings located on the same business property. Well, when the new leader, another leader came in, first thing she said is, can I move both groups in one location? And to so that I can better manage and lead my people. And they were able to do it, and the company did it for them. So as you look right here, you're going to see neutralizers, substitutes, and you're going to be enhancers. Pause and read through those. Coaching. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart because I am a certified executive coach. And sports metaphor for leaders who recognize they are on the sidelines and not on the field. Prepares, guides, and directs a player. Sense make. So when you see the coaching metaphors, most people understand sports, play sports, or watch sports, or at least understand something about it. Those metaphors can be very helpful in preparing folks for real world type situations. Sense making, finding order in complex or ambiguous situations are requiring situational awareness, data gathering from multiple sources, two-way active fitting data into mental mode and mental framework, checking with others on an ongoing basis to gain their perspectives. So you want to be able to do these kind of things as a coach. The situational awareness. Assess the situation to determine what exactly is going on here. Not what you think is going on, but what is really going on. Data gathering from multiple sources. One of the things resourceful leaders will do is they don't go to one source to make a decision. They go to multiple sources and cross-reference things so that they can make good decisions. Two-way active fitting data into a mental model, into a mental framework. So when I put this in there, I'm looking at using the model and I'm putting information in there, and we're looking at the correlation to try to determine what does the model say should be done. Checking with others on an ongoing basis to gain their perspective. Always check with other people. Here's the thing about it is, if a leader is humble and comes to people who actually knows things or people who are resourceful, almost 99% of the time, these people will actually help that person because they understand what the good leader is trying to do. So they want to be helpful. Coaching. Managers need it too. So improve leadership style. This is one of the biggest things with coaching is to help people with their improve their interaction style. How do you interact with people? We had a coaching session with a client where she says that she talked with people a lot, but she didn't understand that why she didn't feel closer to folks or people didn't feel like they could come to her, whatever else. But what she said was she talked to them a lot. What she didn't do is communicate with them. She was not connecting with them. She was talking at them. And that was her style needed to change. Deal more effectively with change. Understand that here's the one thing, I don't have a crystal ball, but here's the one thing I can tell you that's definitely going to happen to every last one of us. We're going to go through change. Then expect it, deal with it, and be prepared mentally for it. Develop listening and speaking skills. How well do you listen? How well do you listen when others are talking to you? How well are you speaking to others and conveying messages? Prerequisites to successful coaching: willingness to change, capability to change, opportunity to practice new behaviors. So when people are getting coached, they do have to be willing to change and the capability, but most importantly, they have to have opportunity to practice what they've thought about and what they've come. A lot of times in coaching, we will refer to things as reframing. Help somebody think about something in a different way. Then they may execute it in a different way. Taxonomy of leadership behaviors. Categories: task-oriented, relations-oriented, change-oriented, external-oriented. So when you see these, with these categories, these different, is it something that's task-oriented? Okay. Is it something meaning something we do? Is it relationship between the people? Is it a change-oriented, something that we used to do, now we don't do anymore? We're going to something new. External-oriented, is it something that's coming from not within my unit, but from another unit, and it's going to affect how we do things, or outside of the organization, something is coming in. So all these things come into play. Other approaches, visionary leaders see what the organization needs to become and use their communication skills to motivate others to achieve the vision required during the organization's transition period. Visionary leaders, uh, this is what, particularly at executive level and senior level, this is what they get paid to do. The exercise of vision. Vision is where you want to go. Then they come up with strategy. Strategy is how you get there. Participative management, reciprocal nature of influence between managers and employees. Uh, so this is when the management is going back, it works with them, almost like they partner with the employees to get things done. Studies the exchanges that take place between them. So this is how they work together. And like I said, when people have get to participate and give, they buy in sooner, and they are much less likely to resist. That concludes this chapter.